Well, this is one more episode of 1890s upper-class British men's clothing, and today I'm going to talk about that shirt, which is not an original. It is a modern converted, not really by me, but it has been converted. So basically that shirt I got in 2009 from, at that time, my friend's the father. So I was 2 and 10, and he gave it to me. The brand is Old Navy, 100% cotton shirt. At the time, well, I suppose it is from the early 2000s. At the time, I slipped off the collar to make it into a band collar shirt, and had sewn a button on there to, and had taken out the top collar button there to have a buttonhole, and I saw around the edges in order to relish it with a detachable collar. I wore it very few times, so it was so large for me. And recently, I suppose 2 years ago, I mean, a lot of things were done. In 2016, so more than 2 years ago, in 2016, I had a maid sew it all together so it would have a tight fit, but then I disliked that, so last year I had it, I took it out and so it was large again. And just before that, I did that last year, but before that, I finally took out the button I had sewn in 2008, and had another housemaid sew this buttonhole, re-sewed that thing there around the edges in 2020, about 3 years ago when she did that. She also added these two little brace tabs, and these are for when one wears braces to pass through the loops. Brace loops, sorry, not brace tabs, brace loops. And that's for the braces shall not slide down. Now, the real point of this video is this is not an original, and I only intended to show original garments, is to, for very recently, as one can hear, I fully starched it, the entire shirt, sleeves, cuffs, band collar, placket, everything, the entire body of the shirt. I starched it as heavily as one could. Now, since 2021, one has been trying to starch the old-fashioned manner. There's a guide which one was as the basis of what I was trying to follow. the guide on the Cigar Lounge called "How to Stiffly Starch Your Shirts Grandma's Wears," and basically he explains how to create starch solution the old-fashioned manner, with the cornstarch and the water. It never worked. I kept trying it about at least 10 times in a row, different portions of starch, and every time the shirt would be very hard. But even when it's white, I would see all this powder, once dry, all the powder, starch powder, would be on the shirt. Finally, I sort of gave up. I wanted to send it to Barker Laundry in Bournemouth, in England. But instead, I purchased that STAFLO upon Amazon. The 2-litre bottle. It only came at 134 dirhams, which is about about 20 pounds. And on the back of the staple thing, it said, for heavy duty, use undiluted dip any garments that one is asked to touch into it. So I did that about a week ago. It dried. I can't iron, so the maid, she ironed it. And so I have not worn it still. I wanted to make a video out of it before starting to wear it. So there it is, and it is super starched. Knowing that, see, there's only one layer of fabric there, and still look at the sound. And the cotton is thick initially, so it did not absorb the starch as well. As one knows, actually, the thinner the fabric, the thinner the cotton and all linen, the better it absorbs. That of these extremely heavy starched shirts, detachable collars and so forth of the Victorian period, of the 1890s, they were rarely achieved by having thin fabrics, but many layers of them. For then each thin fabric would absorb a great amount of starch like a sponge, but then having many plies, they would stick onto one another, and it would create this super stiff, starched collar, or you know, whatever thing it was, cuffs and all. Now, because, for example, on the body, it is only one layer of actually thick fabric, it could not absorb the starch as much, and also using liquid starch is not as efficient as managing to create a traditional starch solution with actual cornstarch, you know. But still, the result is very stiff, quite stiff, and where there are many plies, it is still quite stiffer, especially in the placket. For although there are only 2 plies there, unlike in the collar, I fancy that there is not much of a modern sticky interlining, which is usually made out of tape and which thus prevents proper starching for the tape, so it does not absorb any starch. So actually the placket there is stiffer than the collar. As one can see, the collar is thicker because there are more plies and they have this sort of tape in the interlining, I'm sure. But it is not as stiff as the placket. The same thing for the cuffs. About as stiff as the collar, the cuffs there. But honestly, it is still very stiff. Very, very stiff. For a shirt that thick. Again, not really designed to be super stiff initially, since it is a modern shirt made out of thick cotton. And now I will wear it in that video with the original 1891 collar studs, which I knit out from 1891, but they came with the shirt, which has the patent date 1891. I will eventually make a video out of that shirt. And I knit out the original collar studs for to look at a lot of those used back then, and the shirt was unused, the wedding shirt, which had been well kept. Thereafter, I would have kept the original color studs with it, and since it was a cheap factory shirt from the United States of America, they would come with cheaply, back then they would be sold usually with cheap factory studs like those, which are this is probably some sort of plastic which imitates enamel, and that is a sort of steel coated in not even in gold, coated in something to look like gold. But they are not upper class, nor the British, they are American and more middle class, but at least they are original from the 1890s. And so there are tons of videos showing one how to wear detachable collars. I have, because it's so, you know, I live in Dubai, anyhow, I have made this collar myself. So I purchased very thick artist paper from Borders in Dubai Mall, and I tried many tests. I spent many hours trying to figure out how to make a collar, and finally I came along with that. Then I have a pattern, and I always copy the pattern to trace all the colors. They only last about a week because of all the heat, all the perspiration. I can see it is already dirty down. I only wore it 3 times, that one. But I used 2 plies of the sort of very thick paper, as one can see. And it has a buttonhole there in the back. And a buttonhole there. Now this is rather period accurate, not of the upper class, but there were quite a lot of paper colors. Usually in the 1890s there were cardboard with a coat of, you know, a layer of linen laminated onto it when it was sold. But people who had no money at all might have simply bought a whole bunch of paper sheets and traced out any colors they would have wanted out of them, like I did here. So I'm going to wear it just to show. Obviously, nothing here is very original except for the styles, but I want to show the sort of spirit. So the back style, a bit shorter, goes in the back buttonhole. Can't really do it with one hand. So there, the back is buttoned up. I also added that loop. And so now, because this is interesting, because the loop there is made out of cotton without any interlining, molded interlinings, and is made out of about 2 to 4 layers, I'm not sure. And the cotton was not so thick. It had, each thin layer has well absorbed the starch, and each layer, especially with the ironing, thus laminated onto the other layer, and thus it is as stiff as that paper, or even stiffer. So ideally, that is how stiff detachable cotton collars are actually made and how thick they are. This is way thicker than any other part of the shirt. But also the back there, shoulder yoke, which is made out of 2 plies without any interlining. I note I do not put any interlinings in there. Is actually stiffer than the collar, although the collar is made out of more plies, the band collar I mean, but because it has an interlining, it prevented it from being so stiff. Look at the difference. This bends easily. It's rather soft. Whereas there, the band, the sort of on the band, the yoke, the shoulder yoke there is super stiff. Although it is only 2 plies. Well, at least it is exceedingly stiff. Look at that. Look at the shape there from the hanger, from having hanged to dry. The shape just pretends there. Actually, the shirt can stand on its own. It's amazing. I kept laughing when I first saw it. It's the first time I have a garment that stood upon its own. Look. I managed it when it first came out. Before she ironed it, she had to use a bit of water, so it might be less stiff now. It might not work, especially with the gravity of the collar pulling it down. But it sort of stands upon its own almost. See, it falls down straight. The shape is not gone. It's not extremely stiff, but it is very stiff and exceedingly stiff in some parts. And the loops are actually extremely stiff. I cannot reckon they could be stiffer, made stiffer. I mean, something can always be stiffer, but I would consider the loops to be extremely stiff. I actually did it on a modern shirt because this entire process is extremely damaging to fabrics. I did not want to do it onto something Victorian or very vintage. So I will ask if she can film me wearing it on, or I will have to take another video of my wearing it. And so I wear it with these old, too small blazers, children's blazers I used to have as a child. And I use them as shirt sock suspenders. I clip on one there, the seam there, and I clip on the other one to, damn, can't move there. Clip on the other one to the other side. And now I will, somebody has to film before that.